remembering those that survived the sinking of the RMS Titanic on April 15, 1912. The information provided was obtained and used from findagrave.com. This video contains passengers and employees with the last names starting with H. The remaining survivors will follow shortly. John Hagan, born 1877, in Ireland. He was a fireman on board the Titanic. John's monthly income was £6 or $29.20. He was rescued in Lifeboat 3. John never married after the disaster. He passed away in 1952, at the age of 74, due to pneumonia. John is buried in Ireland. The next survivor is Albert J. Haynes, born 1880, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a boatswain mate. Albert commanded Lifeboat 9 during the evacuation of the sinking Titanic. He was married in 1914. Albert retired from sea in the early 1920s. He was hit by a car and died on the way to the hospital in 1933. Albert was 53 years of age. He is buried in England in an unmarked grave. It is now marked with a wooden cross. The next survivor is Ellen Matilda Hakarinen Nummi, born 1888, in Finland. She boarded the Titanic with her husband and were third-class passengers. They were traveling to Pennsylvania. Ellen was rescued in Lifeboat 15 by the Carpathia. Her husband perished in the sinking. Ellen passed away in 1957 at the age of 68. She is buried in Ohio. The next survivor is Richard Alfred Halford, born 1884, in England. He was born as Walter Stamford Halford. Richard was married. He was a steward, third class, on the Titanic. Richard was rescued in Lifeboat 15. He passed away in 1953 at the age of 68 due to cancer. Richard is buried in England in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is the Hämäläinen family. Mother, Anna Lydia Warshinen Sarlin. Son, Viljo Unto Johannes Hämäläinen. Anna Lydia Warshinen Sarlin, born 1889, in Finland. She boarded the Titanic along with her son and were second-class passengers. They were traveling to Michigan, where her husband was. They both were rescued, but the lifeboat number is unknown. They were divorced and Anna remarried Mr. Sarlin in 1917. She passed away in 1945 at the age of 55. Anna is buried in Maryland. Viljo Unto Johannes Hämäläinen, born 1911, in Massachusetts. He passed away in 1914 at the age of 3 due to endocarditis. Viljo's name is recorded as William Hamlin on the death and burial records. The next survivor is Borik Hanna, born 1885, in Syria. He boarded the Titanic and was a third-class passenger. Borak survived the sinking in Lifeboat 15. He married and changed his name to Bert Johns. Bert passed away in 1952 at the age of 66 due to heart failure. He is buried in Michigan. The next survivor is Jenny Louise Howard Hansen, born 1866, in Wisconsin. She was married to Mr. Hansen. Jenny's occupation was listed as a pastry cook. She boarded the Titanic, along with her husband and brother-in-law. They were third-class passengers, and was traveling to Wisconsin. Jenny was rescued in Lifeboat 11 by the Carpathia. Her husband perished in the sinking. Jenny was 45 years of age at the time of the disaster. She remarried Mr. Emerson. Jenny passed away in 1952 at the age of 85 due to bronchitis, just 5 days short of her 86th birthday. She is buried in Wisconsin. The next survivor is the Harder family. Husband, George Achilles Harder. Wife, Dorothy Annan Harder. They both are Titanic survivors. George Achilles Harder, born 1886, in New York. He was president of the Central Foundry Company. In 1909, George started his own business, with the Essex Foundry. He was chairman until 1936. George married Dorothy in 1912. After she passed away, George remarried. He had 2 daughters and 2 sons. George passed away at a hospital in 1959, at the age of 72, after a short illness. He is buried in New York, at the Harder Mausoleum. Dorothy Annan Harder, born 1890, in New York. She passed away in 1926, at the age of 36, due to uremia. Dorothy is buried in New York at the Harder Mausoleum. The next survivor is William Harder, born 1872, in England. He was a window cleaner on the Titanic. William passed away in 1947, at the age of 75. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Private Reginald Hardwick, born 1891, in England. He was married to Elsie Cobb. Reginald was a kitchen porter on the Titanic. He was rescued in Lifeboat 11. In 1918, Reginald enlisted into the Army Service Corps. During World War I, after 8 weeks of training, he was struck down with an illness and passed away 2 days later in the hospital. Reginald was 26 years of age. He is buried in England. The next survivor is John Hardy, born 1871, in England. He was married and had 2 children. John was a chief steward, 2nd class on board the Titanic. He passed away in 1953, at the age of 82. John is buried in New Jersey. The next survivor is the Harper family. Husband, Henry Sleeper Harper. Wife, Myra Raymond Haxton Harper. Henry Sleeper Harper, born 1864, in New York. He boarded the Titanic along with his wife, and were first-class passengers. They both were rescued in Lifeboat 3. After his wife passed away, he remarried. Henry passed away in 1944, at the age of 79. He is buried in New York. Myra Raymond Haxton Harper, born 1863, in New York. She passed away in 1923, at the age of 60. Myra is buried in New York. The next survivor is Annie Jessie Harper Pond, born 1906, in Scotland. She boarded the Titanic with her father and aunt. They were second-class passengers. Annie was rescued in Lifeboat 11, along with her aunt. Her father perished in the sinking. Annie married Mr. Pond. She passed away in 1986, at the age of 80. Annie is buried in Scotland. The next survivor is Irene Renee Wallach Harris, born 1876, birthplace unknown. She boarded the Titanic, along with her husband. They were first-class passengers. Irene was rescued in Lifeboat D. Her husband perished in the sinking. After the disaster, Irene lost most of her money. She remarried 3 times. Irene passed away in 1969, at the age of 93. She is buried in New York, in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is George Harris, born 1850, in England. George was married in 1875 to Mary Simmons. In 1890, he was married for the second time to Mary Jessup. He boarded the Titanic. George was rescued in Lifeboat 15. He passed away in 1919 at the age of 68. George is buried in Connecticut. The next survivor is Fred Harris, born around 1873, in England. There is no information available on this individual. I could not locate his find a grave on the website. The following information was obtained and used from the Encyclopedia Titanica website. Fred was described as a married laborer in the public works. Fred was a fireman on board the Titanic. His monthly income was £6 or $29.20. Fred was rescued in lifeboat 14. He passed away in 1929 at the age of 57. Fred is buried in England. The next survivor is Aragoa Drummond Harrison, born 1871, in England. There is no information available on this individual. I am leaving this lily for you, you are not forgotten. The following information was obtained and used from the Encyclopedia Titanica website. Aragoa was married in 1896, and they never had any children. He was a steward, first class on board the Titanic. His monthly income was £3 or $14.60. Aragoa was rescued in lifeboat 9. He returned to Britain and resumed his career at sea. Aragoa passed away in 1947 at the age of 75. He is buried in England in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is the Hart family. Mother, Emily Esther Louisa Bloomfield Hart. Daughter, M.B. Eva Miriam Hart. Emily Esther Louisa Bloomfield Hart, born 1863, in England. Prior to boarding the Titanic, she had a premonitions of impending disaster. Emily boarded the Titanic along with her husband and daughter. They were second-class passengers. Emily refused to sleep at night, remaining fully clothed. Her fears were realized when the Titanic struck the iceberg. Emily was rescued in lifeboat 14, along with her daughter. Her husband perished in the sinking. Emily passed away in 1928 at the age of 65. Her burial details are unknown. A letter written by Emily was sold at auction for the sum of £119,000 or $196,000 in 2014. The letter only survived because it had been placed in her husband's jacket and was given to her to keep warm. It is reported to be the last written communication from the Titanic. M.B. Eva Miriam Hart, born 1905, in England. She was 7 years of age when she boarded the Titanic. Eva became a magistrate and received the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. She passed away in 1996 at the age of 91. Eva was cremated, and a tree was planted with a plaque at the base where her ashes were buried under the tree. The next survivor is John Edward Hart, born 1881, in England. He was a steward on board the Titanic. John was rescued in lifeboat 15. He was married to Florence. John passed away in 1954 at the age of 68 due to cancer. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Frederick Hartnell, born 1890, in England. He was a saloon steward, first class. Frederick was rescued in lifeboat 11. He passed away in 1920 at the age of 29 due to cancer. Frederick is buried in England. The next survivor is Hamad Hassab, born 1885, in Egypt. He was a first-class passenger on board the Titanic. Hamad was a servant to Mrs. Harper. He was rescued in lifeboat 3. Hamad passed away in 1965 at the age of 79. His burial details are unknown. The next survivor is Walter James Hawksford, born 1867, in England. In 1892, he was married, and the couple had 2 children, and also a foster child. Walter boarded the Titanic as a first-class passenger. He survived the sinking in lifeboat 3. Walter passed away in 1922, at the age of 55, due to heart failure. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Clara Jennings Gregg Hayes, born 1859, in Missouri. She was married to Mr. Hayes. Clara boarded the Titanic, along with her husband, and her maid. They were first-class passengers. Also accompanying them on board was their daughter and her husband. Clara was rescued in Lifeboat 3. The family was traveling home to Canada. She passed away in 1955, at the age of 95. Clara is buried in Canada. The next survivor is Margaret Bechstein Hayes Easton, born 1887, in New York. She was returning from a European vacation with her school friend and her friend's mother. Joining them was a young man who became interested in Margaret during their travels abroad. The party of 4 were first-class passengers. In addition, Margaret was traveling with her Pomeranian dog. Margaret and her friends, even her dog, were rescued in Lifeboat 7. She married Mr. Easton in 1913, residing in Rhode Island. The couple had 2 daughters. Margaret's husband passed away in 1934, and she continued to travel with her daughters and friends. Margaret had homes in New York and Rhode Island. She traveled with her oldest daughter on a South American cruise. Arriving in Argentina, Margaret suffered a fatal heart attack. She passed away in 1956, at the age of 68. Margaret is buried in Rhode Island, next to her husband. The next survivor is Honor Healy, born 1879, in Ireland. Also known as Nora, she survived the sinking, but she never recovered from the memories of that night. Her neighbor perished in the sinking. Nora had been on her way to meet her aunt and cousin in New York. She was immediately hospitalized upon arriving. In a deep state of shock, Nora was treated for some time, before finally taken home to Ireland. She seemed to be recovering when it became clear that Nora was registering no familiarity with her home, and wasn't showing any empathy towards the family. Over time, Nora grew more paranoid and withdrawn, and was eventually taken to a psychiatric hospital in 1914. Her brain had been frozen in time on that traumatic night. Nora passed away in 1919 at the age of 39 due to a stroke. She is buried in Ireland. The next survivor is William Albert Hebb, born 1889, in England. He was 20 years of age when he signed on to the Titanic. William's occupation was listed as a trimmer. He was rescued in the overturned Lifeboat B. William returned back to England, but uncertain whether he would ever return to the sea. In 1916, William was married, and they had twin daughters. He passed away in 1932, at the age of 42. William is buried in England. The next survivor is Oscar Arvid Hedman, born 1884, in Sweden. In 1905, he emigrated to the USA, settling in North Dakota. In 1912, Oscar was employed by the land firm J.P. Rogers and Company in Minnesota. He married Julia Anderson. The couple had no children. Oscar was a Titanic survivor, being rescued in Lifeboat 15. He passed away in 1961, at the age of 77, due to cerebral thrombosis. Oscar is buried in South Dakota. The next survivor is Ling He, born 1888, in Hong Kong. He was a third-class passenger on board the Titanic. Ling's occupation was listed as a seaman. He was rescued from collapsible boat C by the Carpathia. Ling was 24 years of age at the time of the disaster. His death and burial details are unknown. The next survivor is Leena Heikkinen Pentila, born 1886, in Finland. She survived the sinking of the Titanic. Leena married Mr. Pentila, and they had one daughter. She passed away in 1943, at the age of 57, due to cerebral sclerosis. Lena is buried in Oregon. The next survivor is Hilda Maria Hellström Larsson, born 1889, in Sweden. She had been planning her journey to America for a long time. Hilda booked her passage and her ticket was just under $40 at the time, or about $1,300 in 2024. She traveled third class. Hilda was able to get into lifeboat Collapsible C. In 1915, she married Mr. Larsson, and they had a daughter. Hilda passed away at her daughter's home in 1962, at the age of 72, due to cancer. She is buried in Illinois. The next survivor is Samuel Ernest Hemming, born 1868, in England. He was a lamp trimmer on the Titanic, and was rescued in Lifeboat 4. Samuel was married to Elizabeth. He passed away in 1928, at the age of 59, due to cancer. Samuel is buried in England. The next survivor is Charles Oscar Hendrickson, born 1883, in England. In 1904, he was married to Ellen Young. Charles was a leading fireman on the Titanic. He survived the sinking in Lifeboat 1. Charles testified at the British Inquiry. He retired from the sea in the 1920s. Charles passed away in 1956, at the age of 73. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered in the Garden of Remembrance, in England. The next survivor is the Herman family. Mother, Jane Laver Herman. Daughter, Alice H. Herman Cleland. Daughter, Kate Herman. Jane Laver Herman, born 1861, in India. In 1887, she married Mr. Herman. Jane boarded the Titanic as a second-class passenger, with her twin daughters, her adopted son, and husband. Her son and husband perished in the sinking. Jane and her daughters were rescued in Lifeboat 9, by the Carpathia. She passed away in 1937, at the age of 75. Jane is buried in New Jersey. Alice H. Herman Cleland, born 1887, in England. She married Mr. Cleland and had 4 children. Alice passed away in 1947, at the age of 59, due to complications of diabetes. She is buried in New Jersey. Kate Herman, born 1887, in England. She passed away in 1983, at the age of 95, due to pneumonia. Kate was cremated in Oregon. Her whereabouts of her urn is unknown. The next survivor is Mary Dunbar Kinkham Hewlett, born 1855, in England. She boarded the Titanic as a second-class passenger. Mary was rescued in Lifeboat 13. She married Mr. Hewlett. Mary passed away in 1917, at the age of 61, due to septicemia. She is buried in India. The next survivor is Robert Hickens, born 1882, in England. He was married to Florence Mortimer. Robert was the helmsman on board the Titanic. He was stationed at the Titanic's wheel at the time of the collision. Robert escaped the sinking ship after being placed in charge of Lifeboat 6. A week later, he was ordered to appear before the United States Senate to give sworn testimony as a material witness. Robert continued working in the maritime industry in various low-paying and menial jobs, resulting in severe financial difficulties and debts. He spent 4 years in prison, following an unsuccessful murder-death attempt against a man he owed money, blamed for a failed business venture. After Robert's release from prison, he returned to a life at sea. Robert passed away on board the cargo ship, English Trader, in 1940, at the age of 58. His final resting place was discovered 2 weeks before the 100th anniversary of the Titanic sinking. Robert's grave was unmarked, but now has a headstone. He is buried in Scotland. The next survivor is the Hippack family. Mother, Ida Sophia Fisher Hippack. Daughter, Jean Gertrude Sharon Hippack. They were both Titanic survivors. Ida Sophia Fisher Hippack, born 1867, in Illinois. She married Mr. Hippack. Ida passed away in 1940, at the age of 72, due to cerebral thrombosis. She is buried in Illinois. Jean Gertrude Sharon Hippack, born 1894, in Illinois. She married Mr. Sharon, and they had 2 daughters and 1 son. They were later divorced, and Jean never remarried. She passed away in 1974, at the age of 80, due to cancer. Jean is buried in Illinois. The next survivor is the Hervonen family. Mother, Helga Elizabeth Lindquist Hervonen. Daughter, Hildur Elizabeth Hervonen. Helga Elizabeth Lindquist Hervonen, born 1890, in Finland. Helga and her daughter boarded the Titanic and were third-class passengers. They both survived the sinking by the Carpathia in Lifeboat 15. They were traveling to Pennsylvania. Helga passed away in 1961, at the age of 71. She is buried in New York. Hildur Elizabeth Hervonen, born 1910, in Finland. She was 2 years of age when she boarded the Titanic. Hildur passed away in 1956, at the age of 46, due to cancer. She is buried in New York. The next survivor is the Hawking family. Mother, Elizabeth Eliza Needs Hawking. Daughter, Ellen Hawking Hambley. Elizabeth Needs Hawking, born 1860, in England. She married Mr. Hawking in 1884. The couple had 7 children. Sometime after her husband passed away, Elizabeth married Mr. Guy. Mr. Guy abused Elizabeth, and after his death, she took back the name, Hawking. She decided to join her sons in the U.S. Elizabeth boarded the Titanic, along with her daughter, and traveled in second class. They were rescued in Lifeboat 4. Elizabeth lived in Ohio for 2 years. In 1914, 2 doctors found Elizabeth laying in the middle of the road, in front of the hospital. She had a very bad head wound, and other injuries. Elizabeth passed away in 1914, at the age of 54, 2 years to the day she was rescued from the lifeboat. Her cause of death was ruled hit by a streetcar or mugging. Elizabeth is buried in Ohio. Ellen Hawking Hambley, born 1891, in England. She was greeted by her husband in New York when she disembarked from the Carpathia. She passed away in 1963 at the age of 71 due to heart failure. She is buried in New York. The next survivor is Anna Louisa Andrews Hogeboom, born 1860, in New York. She was married to Mr. Cadby, and they had 3 children. In 1898, Anna married again to Mr. Hogeboom. The couple had no children. Anna was widowed in 1908. She was no stranger to travel. At the age of 18, Anna spent time traveling Europe, France, England, and Switzerland. She boarded the Titanic as a first-class passenger. Anna was rescued in Lifeboat 10. She suffered from a cold and had lost her voice by the time she arrived in New York. Following the disaster, Anna continued to travel. She passed away in 1947 at the age of 87. Anna is buried in New York. The next survivor is George Alfred Hogg, born 1883, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a lookout. George was put in command of Lifeboat 7. He testified at the American and British inquiry on the disaster. George passed away in 1946 at the age of 62. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Annie Margaret Hill Hold, born 1883, in England. She was married to Mr. Hold. Annie boarded the Titanic, along with her husband. They were second-class passengers. Annie lost her husband in the sinking. She remarried to Mr. Bailey. Annie passed away in 1960 at the age of 76. She is buried in England. The next survivor is Mary Alice Towner Holverson, born 1876, in Pennsylvania. She survived the disaster, but her husband perished in the sinking. Mary passed away in 1918 at the age of 41 due to kidney disease. She is buried in New York. The next survivor is Harry Haven Homer, born 1871, in Indiana. He was a first-class passenger on board the Titanic and rescued in Lifeboat 15. His occupation was listed as a gambler. Harry passed away in 1939 at the age of 67. His burial details are unknown, but possibly buried in Ohio. The next survivor is Eliina Honkanen, born 1884, in Finland. She was 27 years of age when she boarded the Titanic. Eliina was a third-class passenger. She was rescued by the Carpathia. Her date of death and burial details are unknown. The next survivor is Robert John Hopkins, born 1868, in Ireland. He worked on the Titanic as a seaman. Robert commanded Lifeboat 13. After his rescue, he returned back to sea and later became a longshoreman in New York. Robert passed away in 1943 at the age of 74. He is buried in New Jersey. The next survivor is Albert Edward James Orwell Sr., born 1879, in England. He was an able seaman on board the Titanic. His monthly income was £5 or $24.30. Albert passed away in 1962 at the age of 83 due to cerebral thrombosis. He is buried in Texas. The next survivor is Masabumi Hosono, born 1870, in Japan. He was a civil servant and was the only Japanese passenger on the Titanic. Masabumi began to write a letter in English to his wife while on board. He was rescued in Lifeboat 13. Masabumi was attacked in his own country for doing so when so many others had died. Japanese papers calumniated his cowardice, citing his survival as a model of shameful behavior. In 1954, a Japanese liner sank, and Masabumi was again dragged through the mud. He passed away in 1939 at the age of 68 as a broken man. Masabumi is buried in Japan. The next survivor is May Elizabeth Howard, born 1890, in England. She was a domestic servant. In 1912, May emigrated to the United States and boarded the Titanic. She survived the sinking in Lifeboat C. May never married and lived in America the remainder of her life. She passed away in 1958 at the age of 68 due to cerebral thrombosis. May is buried in New York. The next survivor is the Hoyt family. Husband, Frederick Maxfield Hoyt. Wife, Jane Ann Forby Hoyt. Frederick Maxfield Hoyt, born 1873, in Connecticut. When his father passed away, he left a fortune to his family. Frederick graduated from Yale in 1895, and in 1900, he was listed as a yacht designer. In 1906, Frederick married Jane, and the couple remained childless. The Hoyts maintained a summer home in Connecticut, and also spent time in Massachusetts. Frederick and his wife boarded the Titanic as first-class passengers. They were traveling back home to Connecticut. Frederick and his wife were survivors on the Titanic, rescued in Lifeboat Collapsible D. They settled in New York and lived in California. He passed away at a hospital in 1940, at the age of 66, due to a heart attack. Jane Ann Forby Hoyt, born 1881, in New York. She passed away in 1932, at the age of 51, due to cancer. They are both buried together in Connecticut. The next survivor is Sidney James Humphreys, born 1859, in England. He was a quartermaster on board the Titanic. Sidney's monthly income was £5 or $24.30. He passed away in 1919 at the age of 60 due to heart failure. Sidney is buried in England in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is Albert Sylvanus Hunt, born 1889, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a trimmer. His brother and brother-in-law were on the Titanic as well. Albert was rescued in lifeboat Collapsible C, while his brother perished in the sinking. His brother-in-law was rescued in Collapsible Lifeboat B. Albert passed away in 1949 at the age of 60 due to heart failure. He is buried in England in an unmarked grave. The next survivor is Walter Hurst, born 1888, in England. He worked on the Titanic as a fireman, along with his father-in-law. When the Titanic sank, his father-in-law gave up his lifeboat, so Walter could be saved. Walter climbed aboard the upside-down lifeboat B. His father-in-law perished in the sinking. Walter passed away in 1964, at the age of 76. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Leo James Hyland, born 1893, in England. He was a steward, 3rd class. Leo survived the sinking in Lifeboat 11. He became the only survivor to draw the sinking of the Titanic. Leo passed away in 1974, at the age of 81. He is buried in England. The next survivor is Joseph Abraham Hyman, born 1878, in Russia. In 1902, he was married, and by 1911, they had 5 children. Joseph's wife refused to cross the Atlantic to join him. He boarded the Titanic and was a 3rd-class passenger. Joseph was traveling to Massachusetts, where his brother resided. He was rescued in Collapsible Lifeboat C by the Carpathia. Joseph was 34 years of age at the time of the sinking. He returned back to England, where Joseph opened a kosher deli and grocery store. The store was named Titanic's and is still in operation today. In 1929, Joseph was remarried. He passed away at a hospital in 1956, at the age of 77. Joseph is buried in England. If you like this content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel at MeTime806. Thank you very much.